Hi, I'm Johnny from Cinema 5D, and I'm here with Grant Petty from actually the CEO and owner of Blackmagic Design. It's a great opportunity to have you and actually talk to you a little bit.
Nice to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you. So I would like to know a little bit about Blackmagic Design in the sense, excuse me, thank you. I would like to know a little bit about Blackmagic Design in the sense of you moved very much from hardware into manufacturing cameras, and that was like a new venture a few years ago. Why did it happen? What was the urge to start to do cameras? Where is it coming from?
It's similar to what we've done in a number of product lines. If you look in the original days, we did capture cards. And the reason we did those is, well, to step back a little further, the reason we started the company is to empower creative people. I mean, I was working in television, and I found that it was really, post-production. I was working in post-production, and it wasn't a creative industry. Now, that's a bit controversial, but you're talking about early 90s. It was an equipment hire business. You know, the equipment we had, the rooms we had, the edit rooms and the color correction rooms, we charged $1,000 an hour or more for those rooms. And so there was two kinds of people in post-production. There was some sort of egocentric, money guys, but then there was creative people that were very good people, and they did all the creative work, but they weren't treated that well, and they couldn't do it themselves. So I kept seeing sort of some ruthless, horrible kind of people. We've seen some of that stuff coming out of Hollywood, right? This sort of some of the problems that the TV industry has. But then really in many ways the creative people were the ones that were actually doing the nicest work. And I was an engineer, and I was doing support. I couldn't understand how everyone couldn't see that the creative people were the center of the business. I mean, sure, okay, you've got to hire the equipment out because it's expensive, but I don't understand why the whole business doesn't focus and revolve around the creative people. So it kind of made me a bit angry and pissed off, and my friends, the creative friends, were frustrated, not only with the quality of the products, some products, like look at the Da Vinci, right? When we bought Da Vinci, great technology, but the control panel had gaps in it, and it wasn't ROS compliant, for lead free. It wasn't even EMC tested properly in some of these things, so they couldn't sell them properly. I mean, it's just all kinds of problems, and people just put up with that. And these are high-end products and high-end systems, and they were terrible sometimes. They did the core thing right, but everything else was badly implemented. And I kind of felt like I needed to empower creative people. So the capture card thing was really the first step, because you could use computers. And so in the time, it was really allowing QuickTime to be the postscript of television. That was kind of what we were doing. QuickTime would let everything tie together. Well, now, we do in multiple platforms, and we've got, many years since then. But that was like the reason for those products being first, is that they had the most amount of effect on the industry, because you could use all kinds of different kind of computer software to do television work. And in those days, you had to use disc recorders to bring the video in and out via the Ethernet network. We wanted a real-time capture of QuickTime movies in high quality, real-time playback, and then you just had the media there. You could use all kinds of software for it. So you go from that, then you realize we need to monitor. So we need to build, the original SDI to HDMI converter and things like that. And then we moved through a bunch of different product lines as people needed to, they needed more things from us. And we're here to, empower that creativity. So you realize, not only that, you're getting your operations better, you're improving what you do, you're learning all the time. So then you sort of start to use that knowledge in other things. And when Da Vinci came up, we acquired Da Vinci because I thought that was a major area where the TV industry, again, there's a long answer, but it's kind of a big topic, it's our history. But the TV industry, the problem was color correction. Most people couldn't afford to have color correction. It was very exclusive, very expensive. But I knew that color correction is the motion track of video and audio and film. So you've got the video track, the audio track, and color correction is the emotion, because I'd worked on telecines when I worked in television. So to me, I was like, okay, that's a big step. We can fix this, make it more available. But the problem is we made it available. We had a $1,000 Mac version of the software. Then we made a free version of the software because we wanted to try to get more colorists. And you really just had to keep people hooked on color correction to get them to use it. And so you did that. But then you realize, well, they can't grade the shots from video cameras because they already clip the blacks and clip the whites. They make nice pictures, but not digital film that we can grade. And digital film cameras cost so much, so we have to do something there. And that was really, we asked people if they could make a cheap digital film camera, but it's really, really difficult. And you realise that with the size we are and the systems and operations we have, we can tackle that problem. So we did, and that's why we don't play this kind of Coke versus Pepsi game with people. We're not all that, the nasty sales guys run around sometimes and go, I hate this person, I hate that person. That's not like what we're like. We just, as far as I'm concerned, we're empowering creativity. It doesn't matter how we do it. We'll just solve one problem after another. And if you look at the difference, look at the industry now that it was even 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. Now you've got television shows with the production values on TV programming now are so high that you've got feature film actors who would never touch a TV show, but they're freely moving backwards and forwards between television shows and film without any damage to their career. So they've got much more freedom of the type of work they do. They just want to do good acting. And you've got crews now that can just do good work, and you don't have this money problem where you couldn't afford it and it was all so expensive and it made it difficult. Because, the next great artist doesn't come from, royalty. It comes from the street. It comes, creative passion and drive, and that's the focus of Blackmagic, and that's the reason why we get into the product categories we do. There's a problem to solve, and that's why we did cameras.
So you're actually creating from A to Z, let's call it almost like an ecosystem that you allow people to create. But when you move to producing cameras, that was actually a whole new field for you. And maybe sometimes also a bit frustrating, because this is an industry that, from show to show, people are asking what is new. And obviously, you came up with new stuff. Actually, you announced about new stuff. But then there was a bit of a learning phase between announcing and delivering. Am I right?
Absolutely, yeah. What we found with cameras is, with other product lines, we know our suppliers, and we know the supply chains, and it's all very good. But with cameras, there's a whole lot of variation. There's mechanical, things, and as well as sensors and other things. So what we found is that the suppliers are not quite as reliable as we were used to. We could they're more predictable. Some of these products, you can complete the product, you run the QA plan, it's going to be good. You don't suddenly find that the screens have got huge variation and things like that. So that's the sort of things we found, and in the end we realised that there's also a lot of cutting edge technology in cameras and the way we process imagery and stuff like that. So we found that our feeling is, look, you've got one group of people saying, tell us the new thing, and we want to accommodate so people can plan what's coming. But when you've got a product that's got thousands of parts in it, it just takes one part to be delayed, and suddenly the whole product's delayed. And the other issue you have is the electronics industry's been getting worse and worse with lead time. 25, 35 weeks now is a common lead time for parts. So you can wait half a year from when you order a part to when you work out that you want to use that part to when you actually get a good supply of those parts. So we've done a lot of work to improve those systems as well. But it's just the nature of electronics is, also bad. So I think that, in many ways we've just had to realise we've got to be a little bit more cautious with products in general. I think, it's always that pressure. In the early days we didn't tell anyone anything we were doing, and then we kind of got, you got to tell people what you're doing so they can see what's coming. So then we kind of felt like we got pressured into that. And then, you get the slightest problem and it goes wrong. So then we've just gone, look, we can't afford to do that anymore. So, that people are going to have difficulty planning because they'd like to know what you're doing if you just spring it on them suddenly. But at the same time, it's difficult for us to do it any other way because there's so much complexity. We've actually had products on a booth that we've taken off the booth because we've suddenly realised there's a workflow issue, like the duplicator product we've got that records, onto 25 SD cards, H.264 and H.265. That's designed to allow you to distribute content directly to people physically without needing to stream it, because obviously streamed content can just be watched by anyone. But if you wanted to sell content, you can do it with that. Problem is, we found there was a workflow problem with the way the files worked. It was actually on the booth. We were about to launch them. We had to pull it off the booth at the last minute. And we were lucky, but if we had have announced that, it would have taken another 3 months to fix that, and everyone would have been complaining that you didn't have it. So I think that was when we started to realise that any product can be suffer from that. So we just have to be conservative, unfortunately.
How do you prioritize what features will go into a camera? Because you have a diversity of, let's say, different lines.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize what will go in and what will be the next best thing?
It's quite difficult. I mean, it's just lots of conversations on trade shows, really. When you spend a lot of time, talking to people and trying to, essentially just solve their creative problems. These are people who work hard in this industry. It's not like, the impression that people aren't in the TV industry get the feeling that somehow television's an easy industry and fun. Sure, it's enjoyable when you see creative work done, but it's a passion industry. The core of the industry is not technology. It might be electronic media, but really, to me, the core of the industry is actually creative passion. And that's the bit that matters. So really, we look at when you're talking to somebody, well, what's going to generate creative passion? It's like even with the 8K product we're showing here, people are like, oh, but it's so cheap. It's like the same price as the 4K product. It's cheaper than some of our 4K cards. That's not the point. What does, 8K, yeah, it's a technology, and, the natural progression is screens will get higher resolution, so you move in that direction. But what does it mean from a passionate creative point of view? What do the, technology mean creatively? And that's the thing that's on my mind anyway. And I think that also a lot of other people here think the same way. It's the core of what we are. And so, we're not here to be like, hey, we're awesome. We're here to go, how do we help? Like when I worked in post-production as a support, engineer, building facilities and fixing, old tape machines and telecines, shows you how old I'm getting. But at the core of it all, I was there to support creativity. And I didn't think the equipment manufacturers were doing that. So today it's just as important to make sure that we're not here to tell you how awesome we are. Hopefully we've done a good job and we're here to find out if we have or not. If we haven't, you'll tell us. But the big question is, how do we have conversations and work out how to serve, so to speak? What is our next thing? What's our next task? And what does that mean creatively? And you have these great conversations about how people are using the products and what they're doing here. And people surprise you. People are amazing. They do the most incredible things. So that's kind of it. It's a bad answer, I guess, but
No.
it's all emotion in some ways, but that's kind of
That's
what
reality
we're
and that's
doing.
the truth.
Yeah.
Many people are waiting for the next best thing, like a small pocket camera, like the one you have already, but not in full HD, in 4K. Just between us, nobody's really watching. Should they keep waiting, or?
Yeah, we're working on all these things. There's problems to fix. It's hard to talk about anything in the future because you don't know what's going to happen when and all that sort of thing. But we're constantly working on things. So yeah,
I'll try to catch you in next exhibition and, and see what's new.
Yeah.
Grant, thank you very much for
thank you very
giving
much.
us
Nice
the
to talk
time.
to you.
Thank you very much.
Glad we can
And-
catch up.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you very much for watching.